We're in IndictBreitbart.org campaign, and we're here with John Atlas, author of the wonderful book Seeds of Change, which deals with the rise and fall, both the rise and fall of ACORN.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, briefly, give us a little background of how you heard about ACORN and decided to write the book about this organization, ACORN.
Well, for at least three decades, I have been on the front lines of fighting for social justice, trying to make a difference, trying to fight to reduce poverty, to increase opportunity, to increase equality in America, fight for social justice. And I know how hard it is to make just a small difference. For 22 years, I was the executive director of a legal aid program. I helped start the National Housing Institute, which publishes a magazine called Shelter Force. And that magazine focuses on issues of poverty, affordable housing, and community development. I worked with organizations like Citizen Action and church groups and environmental groups. Like I said, for 3 decades I've been involved, and it was very difficult to make even a small difference. And I heard about this group ACORN when I decided I was going to write a book. And people said that ACORN was making a big difference. So I thought, maybe I should check out this group, see if they were making a big difference, and if they were, how did they do it?
Did you hear about it? You were just watching the cable news one night and it popped.
Oh, no. I know about the organization because I've been involved in all these concerns for years, fighting for social justice. Everybody heard of ACORN. So one of the reasons it caught my attention was there was a local ACORN chapter in Paterson, New Jersey, and they seemed to be doing a lot of very effective things. I was very impressed with their members. We would call them, just ordinary people, everyday people, mostly black, mostly working poor, who were unafraid to confront loudly politicians and corporations that were basically screwing them in their community. And one example that it turned out that I saw, which turned out to be very typical of ACORN across the country, was how they dealt with this rundown park in their neighborhood. You want to hear that story? Yeah. Okay, it's very typical. They do this almost everywhere. They set up chapters, and I think in many ways it's very emblematic of the kind of group that ACORN was. And that is, the organizers would go into a neighborhood, they would knock on doors, and they would tell people, I'm with this community organizing group, ACORN, and we're interested in helping to improve your community. Can I talk to you? And one of the responses that everybody would say, that any person who was answering the door would say, gee, nobody ever asked me how they might be able to improve my neighborhood or community. So that's how they would get to the community. They would set up a committee, and they would, in this case, find out, as would be very typical, that there was a local park. It was run down, full of glass and newspapers. They had complained over and over again to get the city officials to clean it up, and the city officials were unresponsive. So what did ACORN do? I wasn't at the organizing meetings, but I did one day go out to that park where the organizers said, we're going to go and clean up that park ourselves. And so there they were, mothers, fathers, their kids, with the shovels, with their black garbage bags, their garden gloves, cleaning up the bottles and the newspapers and the garbage, and turning what was an eyesore into a community asset used for the kids.
That almost sounds like a conservative point of people not looking for the government for help, but actually doing the work themselves.
Exactly.
It sounds more right-wing than left-wing.
Well, it is. It's what it is it's a very old-fashioned, traditional American value, which is self-help.
What, did they originate in one city?
ACORN began in 1970 in Arkansas, of all places.
Arkansas?
Yes.
Wow.
Which is so unusual for two reasons. Most progressive groups right? We usually think of them as where they centered, usually Washington, D.C. Well,
I thought they were from Chicago.
Well, no, they weren't. Yeah, this Wade Rothke, who was a brilliant organizer, and he got his feet wet in organizing in the anti-war movement and then in the welfare rights movement, had this vision of creating a powerful organization, a national organization of poor people, run by poor people, where organizers would help teach them how to improve themselves and collectively make life better and help lift themselves out of poverty. Not any kind of philanthropic do-goodism or we're going to do it for you. It wasn't charity.
Empowerment?
It was empowerment. It wasn't charity. It wasn't philanthropy. It was empowering the people themselves. Self-help, empowerment.
I saw a pattern myself, and many people saw how ACORN wasn't defended by Obama and the Dems. As soon as they became the crosshairs on the Senate floor, they were just immediately cut off.
Jettison them.
Yeah, jettison. No defense to them. Do you think? Can you comment on that? And also, add on is, there was a very low turnout amongst young Obama supporters who voted in 2008 for him. 14 million who voted for him.
You mean in 2010?
In 2008, 14 million people came out and voted for Obama. In the 2010 midterm elections, the vote had dropped like 5 million.
Right.
Do you think that possibly by Obama and the Dems abandoning ACORN, Van Jones, Shirley Sherrod, letting Breitbart and the right wing and even the mainstream media who goes along with it, go along with just the people are feeling that his base is feeling abandoned. The people, like you said earlier at your signing, that Obama and everyone rushed to embrace ACORN because they wanted to get the votes, but then when they got attacked at the Senate, they were abandoned. Can you speak to that?
Well, the facts speak for themselves. They were abandoned. They were abandoned by many of their allies, including Obama, who actually, when he ran for office in the primary election, in the Democratic primary, sought their endorsement. He sought their endorsement along with Hillary Clinton and John Edwards. They all sought the endorsement. ACORN ended up divided, but they voted for endorsing Obama, and he had a long history with them. And there's lots of potential reasons why he abandoned them. But one of them does seem to be very consistent with his relationship with progressive groups, we might call movement groups or activist groups. It looks like his administration likes to control them and inhibit their work so that they don't mess up the Obama agenda. We can say whether that's right or wrong. I don't know. I think it's wrong, but maybe they know something I don't. To your second point, it is absolutely clear that the drop in black minority and young voting in 2010 was the primary cause for the Republican landslide in the House and in the Senate. Certainly in a place like Pennsylvania, where the race was very close, and in Ohio, the Pennsylvania Senate race, the Ohio governor's race, they were very close. ACORN had a strong base in there. It is likely that had ACORN been around, that Senate race in Pennsylvania would have gone toward the Democrat, and the governor would have been reelected in Ohio.
Do you think that you talked about the ex-members of ACORN and the staff that's now, licking their wounds, collecting themselves up, to gather back up? Do you think they're going to be just a multitude of small organizations that form, or do you think they'll form one or a few really huge organizations just under a new name but the same mission? I mean, what do you think lies in the future?
Well, first I'll say that in the future, there will be, at least in a dozen states, new organizations who are who learn from ACORN's strengths, and they're going to build on those, and they've learned about ACORN's weaknesses, and they will try to learn from those as well. And they may turn out to be stronger, more effective, better, we don't know. because I'll say this, and it's a very important point in any analysis, that leadership counts. Never underestimate leadership. And so it's going to depend on who the people who do the organizing are, how courageous they are, how smart they are, how dedicated they are. But I do think, I will say one thing, that the ACORN strategy about building a national organization of low and moderate income people that is multi-issue, they involve lots of issues, that is cross-class, that is they're welfare poor, working class, middle class, and that is multiracial, is a good idea.
Your book title is Seeds of Change. Do you think that even though the right was able to bring down ACORN and they're no more, do you think that they, in their work, that they were together, the organization was how old before they?
It was around since 1970.
Yeah. So do you think 40 years, they were around for 40 years? So do you think the 4 decades that they were around, that they did lay seeds of change, that even will things will come to fruition even though they're around no more?
You can't kill an idea. You can't, once a person was involved in ACORN or any other of these good community organizations, they may not stay forever, but they often go to another group. They may go to the Center for Community Change, which we're here today, which is doing some effective work. They may go work for a labor union or another public interest group. And people in the community, through ACORN, have learned new skills. They've learned how to run meetings, how to fight City Hall, how to make corporations accountable. They've learned, they become educated. They're not going away. They're there.